Addictions touch even the best Christian families right here in San Diego. This is Recovery Radio San Diego with Todd Cunningham of Pacific Hills Treatment Center and Recovery Options Network, along with John and Leslie Savage on KPRZ weekdays at 6:30. Stay with us for real-life stories, help from Christian experts, what works and what doesn't work, and local area resources for you and your family. Welcome to Recovery Radio San Diego.
Good evening. You're listening to 1210 AM KPRZ. This is a brand new radio program about addictions and self-destructive behaviors and God's gift of recovery. Welcome to Recovery Radio. My name is John Savage, and I am a grateful recovering addict. I'm one of 3 members of this new local ministry. Recovery Radio is a daily program heard Monday through Friday at this time, and our sole mission is to assist the addicts and their families by providing local professional resources to get them the help they need to live a happy and productive life. I believe man's chief end is to glorify God in everything that he does and enjoy him forever. And when you do that, there's freedom. Others in my show here is my wife, Leslie. How are you this afternoon, Leslie?
I'm well, thanks.
Very good. And Todd Cunningham with Recovery Options. Todd couldn't be here tonight, but we told Todd that we will stand in for him. We will give the telephone number out and talk about recovery options, which we'll do throughout the course of this afternoon's show. My recovery journey began for me in May of 2007, a little over 3 years ago, when I finally surrendered and met God while locked up in a Tijuana jail cell. For 2 years leading up to that day, I had been abusing prescription medication, which quickly led to more insidious forms of drug abuse. But in the end, I was hopelessly out of control, spending the majority of my time away from my family just to feed my addiction. My turning point was that arrest in Tijuana, and when I completely surrendered and admitted that my life was completely unmanageable, and at the time I was powerless over my behavior. So over the last 3 years, I have a renewed purpose in my life. This radio ministry is one of those purposes. I'm very thankful to be reunited with my family and here today to talk about recovery. And all of us at Recovery Radio pray for that day for you, that day when you finally surrender and turn your life and will over to the care of God. He will show you an inner peace that you never thought was possible. But you know, sometimes when we come to that first step, we need professional help to get started. Yesterday, we enjoyed hearing from Richard Perlin. Richard shared with us his recovery journey, as well as what he's doing to help families who are struggling with addicts. And we're going to have him back this afternoon. Richard, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. And one more time, thanks for having me back.
Oh, no, it's our pleasure to have you here. We get real good feedback, and we thank you for what you're doing. Why don't you just get us a quick update on who Richard is, what you're doing? I know that you're in the detox business as well as helping families.
Yeah, thank you, John. I'm here, and I do represent First House Detox, a medically supervised detox for both men and women that's located in Costa Mesa, California. Also, Family Focus Interventions. I'm a certified interventionist, work with families, trying to put some perspective in terms of the question, where do we go from here when addiction enters the picture. And so I'm celebrating 15 years of sobriety this Friday, so I'm excited about that. After I leave this show on Friday, I'm going to go down and take my chip for that, and so I'm excited to spend this week with you.
Well, that's great to hear, and again, we just thank you so much for coming down. We are going to be talking about interventions this evening, but before we get started, we wanted to let you know about our scholarship programs. If you or someone you know is at a point to where they want to begin again and get on the road to sobriety, but you need financial help, you can call 949-973-9140 and hear about our matching grants that we're making available to the local church community and businesses. So if you're ready to take that first step, Pacific Hills Treatment Center has generously come to the table with a 1-for-1 matching grant. So if you want information, call right now, area code 949-973-9140. So, Richard, the intervention process. Yesterday, we kind of focused on families and what they can do to help their loved one. And so that kind of circles into today and maybe some of the steps that families can take to get their loved one help or their friend help, or maybe it's a business associate help. So that leads us right into interventions. Let's talk about interventions. What is an intervention?
Well, an intervention is a group of family and friends getting together, assembling and sharing information amongst themselves in regard to an addictions problem within their family structure or even the work structure. And it is important that everybody kind of get on the same page. So typically, I guess I can just walk you through the process. My phone will ring, and it will be one family member, maybe someone that sees the seriousness of this problem and says, look, Richard, we need help. My son or daughter needs help. My family member needs help. And from there, I will build outward by talking to the important elements of a family, trying to bring everybody onto the same page in terms of how we're going to address the problem. Typically, in a family structure, what you'll have is one individual that sees the addiction problem one way and another that sees it another way, right on down the line. And of course, a interventionist's job is to get a family all on the same page, bringing all the resources of a family together to kind of draw that proverbial line in the sand and say, look, we're not doing this anymore. This is going to be our approach not only today, but from this day forward. And of course, to really kind of honor that bottom line throughout the recovery process. Once a family is on the same page, it makes it very, very difficult for the addict to do what the addict does best, which is try and convince a family member that black is white or up is down and all the things that they do to kind of throw us off stride. Any addiction hates scrutiny on any level, and of course, people are resistant to having their life put out for examination. And that's really the dilemma that a family faces. But it becomes apparent after a period of time that this problem is not going to go away. Intervention is probably the best way to meaningfully address addiction.
So once we have the family on the same page, I mean, we've seen the TV show. I mean, it's called Intervention. But let's talk about, so you got everybody on the page, and then at that point, where do we go from there in the way of the setup? Is it a setup, and how does it play out typically?
Right. Well, in terms of getting everybody in a family like-minded, that's really where the real work to be done is. Typically, you'll have people see the same problem in a different light. A mom, for example, might be inclined to say, "Oh, the problem's not as bad," or while the dad, he might see it completely differently and see the damage of addiction not only in his loved one, but in terms of what it does to the entire family. So there's a lot of family education elements that go to towards a successful intervention. I spend 95% of my time getting the family to really understand addiction, the nuts and bolts of addiction, empowering them to feel clearly understand that it's what they're going to do, no longer what the addict is going to do, and of course prepare them for all the variables of a intervention. A lot of times, there's a great deal of fear and trepidation in a family under the heading of what could possibly happen when a child gets told no, literally for the first time. And when I say a child, that could be somebody from 18 to 65. Mm-hmm. Essentially, an addict has had it his or her own way for the majority of their addiction, that's for sure. And so it's a tough message for them to swallow when a family comes together and says, look, we're doing it differently from this point forward.
Well, you said the message. What typically is the message that is being stated?
I think that the message essentially is, we are your family, we love you, but we're not going to participate in your disease anymore. And so once that statement is made, it is absolutely essential. Actually, prior to that statement being made, everybody in the family has got to buy into the process. And so if there's any reservations in a family member, these need to be worked out in advance to the intervention. Everybody has to feel confident with the message that they're delivering. In other words, you cannot say to an addict, look, we are not going to do this anymore. We're not going to provide you the means to sustain your addiction anymore, and then have a grandmother give somebody $500 the first time he or she calls up and says, "Look, I'm in trouble and I need money." And so, it should, whenever possible, people should utilize a professional in this regard. However, I do want to take this opportunity to state that I will take any phone call and help any family to try and understand the intervention process so that they can move forward. I think it is the critical component in recovery.
You're right. And if you want to get in touch with Richard, we're going to do it through Todd, who's not here today, but Todd's number, and he's available to take your call. He just wasn't available tonight to do the show. He's at 949-973-9140. 949-973-9140. If you want to talk to Todd about the intervention process, if you're ready to make a change in your life and you want to hear more about the treatment options that Todd has through recovery options, you can certainly do that.